There is a total of $17.5 trillion in household debt in the US as of the beginning of 2024. So this equals approximately $104,215 per household across America. Now, according to debt.org, 23% of Americans are living debt-free. So what that means is that the other 77% have a much higher household debt than the $104,000. The debt that these households are dealing with comes in many forms. Things such as mortgages, car loans, credit card debt, personal loans, and student loans. Whatever you use the debt for, it is classified usually as either secured or unsecured, and as revolving or installment debts. So understanding the types of debts, you have secured versus unsecured. A secured loan is usually backed by collateral. It's something that the lender can take possession of if you default on the loan. So home loans and car loans are good examples of secured debts. Unsecured debts, now these loans don't have collateral and are exclusively relying on your ability to pay to repay the loan. Because unsecured debt is a higher risk to the lender, they tend to have a much higher interest rate. Credit cards and payday loans are examples of unsecured debt. So looking at revolving and installment debts, now a revolving debt is a line of credit that you can continue to use multiple times. You are usually given a credit limit and continue to use the credit line until you hit that limit. Another element of revolving credits is that there's usually a minimum balance. The minimum payment is what makes this type of debt so appealing. With payments of 1 to 2% of the total balance plus any accrued interest, it makes this type of debt seem extremely affordable. Now, installment debts, this is a fixed loan. A lender loans you a set amount, and you generally have a set payment amount for the life of the loan. Revolving credit examples are credit cards and home equity lines of credit, while installment debts are things such as home loans, car loans, and student loans. When you have multiple types of loans at various interest rates, it can be difficult to figure out the best way to approach how you will pay off your debt. I know when I started my debt-free journey, I had primarily credit card debt and a few personal loans from family. $69,000 in debt, and I had no real strategy to pay it off. We were just paying what we could towards the minimum balances when we had a little bit of extra money. So finding a debt payoff strategy that works for you starts with knowing what they are and how they work. So I'm going to go over 3 popular and effective strategies. And if you stick around to the end, I'm also going to show you a tool that will allow you to compare these so that you can make an informed decision as you begin your debt payoff journey. So first of all, the snowball method. The snowball method was popularized by Dave Ramsey. The steps to the snowball method is first of all, you list all of your debts from the smallest to the largest. Now, if you are following Dave Ramsey's baby steps, you exclude any mortgage that you happen to have from this process. You pay all of the minimum balances, then you put any excess money from your budget towards the smallest debt. Once this first debt is paid off, then you take that minimum payment, apply it towards the next smallest debt, as well as any excess in your budget. And you just continue this process until all the debts in your debt snowball are paid off. The pros and cons for the snowball method, some of the advantages is that the small wins at the beginning help to keep you motivated through the process. And it's easy to follow without having to look up all of the various interest rates and take those into account. A drawback to the snowball method is that it does not save the maximum amount of interest, and it can take longer over time to pay off all of your debts. The next process that we're going to look at is the avalanche method. Now, the Avalanche method was endorsed by financial educators like Susie Orman and Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Man, Poor Man. Now, the Avalanche process has been called the pure math method. You list all of your debts in order of interest rate, from the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. And you're giving the higher interest rate debts priority for payoff. You make all the minimum payments, and then you put any extra money in your budget towards the highest interest rate. Once that debt is paid off, you move to the next highest interest rate and apply all of those minimum payments and your excess funds towards that. Continue this way until all debts are paid off. The pros and cons of the Avalanche method, benefits include that it is the fastest method for paying off your debt, and the total amount of interest is the lowest that you're going to pay. One of the drawbacks is that it requires a lot of discipline to follow this method, because you don't have any of those early wins that you get in the Snowball method. So it can feel like a drudge sometimes. The third method is the emotional ranking method. Now, this method looks at the origin of the debt and perhaps the stress that this debt causes in your life. Did you take out the loan from your parents, and now every time you buy something, you get a sideways glance from them because you haven't paid them back yet? Or perhaps you bought something for an ex and you put it on your credit card, and now every time you make a payment, it makes you sick because you're paying for something that you gave to this person. So that's what this method is for. You rank your debts in order of how they make you feel, and then follow all the same steps for paying off your debt that you did in the Snowball method and the Avalanche method, making the minimum payments and letting those funds accumulate towards the next debt in line. So now, as I promised, I do have a great tool that I found while paying off my debt. Take a look at this spreadsheet. There is a link to this spreadsheet in the description below. Now, I didn't create this spreadsheet, but the creator did put it out there for anyone to use. In this sheet, you can enter all of your debts, including the balances and interest rates. And there's even a column in the sheet for custom ranking that you can use for the emotional ranking of your debts. Then you can go through and compare the three payoff methods. You can look at the amount of time it will take for each payoff method and how much total you're going to pay for each process. So which of these is the best? Well, ultimately, whichever method you can stick with. If the math really speaks to you, the Avalanche method may be for you. And if you need those early wins to keep yourself motivated, the Snowball method may be for you. And if you really need to get your parents off your back and make Thanksgiving go smoother, go the emotional route. So now, speaking of supercharging your debt payoff, check out this video on the credit card shuffle that may help speed your debt payoff.